Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
good. Okay, so we can move on to club business right now. I have one order of business I have to take care of right away. Allison White, who was the director for 3 years, has stepped down due to work commitments. She's a forestry person now, and she has professional development issues, and she regretfully resigns because she just can't give the time she figures she has to devote to the board. So I'm going to ask for a motion here to approve Chris Ito, who has gratefully offered her services as interim director. I need a Ken Bagshaw and the seconder, please.
Don Davis.
Don Davis? Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about that? Our constitution allows us to do this. This will be an interim position until the annual general meeting at the end of February. So that's what that's for. I hear no concerns or whatever, so the motion is passed. Thank you. Recruiting new board members. You've probably seen, if you're following our publications or Facebook or whatever, that we're always beating the bushes for memberships and renewals on time. We are driven by our memberships and donations when we can get them. And that's really what keeps us alive. So please make sure you do that. We ask for memberships to be renewed at the beginning of the fiscal year, which is January. Yeah. We're always recruiting new board members, so I'll let everybody know right now. We're looking for a first vice president come the end of February, and there will be likely one board position to be filled. So I'll let everybody know that now that can hear. And any questions or concerns or comments, you can please get a hold of me directly or Willow Beach FN at gmail.com for that. And Brian Maxwell and I will be sourcing out all of that and have that ready for the membership in due time. Okay, so what else have I got here? Lots of stuff. Get through this as quickly as I can. Okay, so Allison, by the way, we thank Allison very much, and we also thank Chris Ito for stepping forward. This is very important. Sometimes we have difficulty having a quorum. This should solve some of that problem. Thanks on that. What else have I got here? I have. Well, in the last year, I'm going to go through this very quickly. Our membership numbers have been rising. Our Facebook members have been rising. And I'm just going to go through this very quickly. New members in the last year: Leslie Abram, Kathy and Mike Alfano, Sharon Brickman, Thelma Dillon, Daniel D'Souza, Bernie and Jill Harrigan, Owen Jameson, Maria Cordes Fraser, Rebecca Last, Elaine Lynn, Matt Mayer, Diane Major, Robert Miller, Julia Moore, and Daniel Egan, Bob Masurajan, I think that's how you pronounce it, Catherine Payman, David Phillips, Jim and Ann Purvis, Honor Shepley, Emily Williamson, Donna Wooten, and Amy Zotz. And I think we got some new memberships tonight. Yes, we did. Thank you very much. Okay, at this point, I think we can go to Elizabeth, invite Elizabeth for outings and sightings. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay, I'll do sightings first. The star of the sightings has been in Coburg Harbor this week. Harlequin duck female. The female Harlequin duck isn't quite as dramatic as the male, but it still is a pretty interesting duck. Lots of people have seen it. I have not, but many people have seen it. So, and there are, because all eyes are on Coburg Harbor, maybe somebody else has had something interesting in Coburg Harbor. Anybody else?
There's a ruddy duck there, a female ruddy duck.
A female ruddy duck has also been seen, also an unusual duck for Coburg Harbor.
Snow.
And a snow goose, one snow goose. So you never know what you'll find in Coburg Harbor, because it's a very interesting place. And the birds are much closer to you than if you go to some other places that you might be seeing unusual ducks in the winter. So you can So anybody else? No, Marina, how have the evening grosbeaks been hanging out? Are they still there?
Every day, all the time.
Every day, all the time. So if you're in a desperate hurry to see evening grosbeaks, ask Marina where she lives. She will welcome visitors. We walked in one day when she wasn't home and we saw the evening grosbeaks. So anybody's welcome. Anybody else having evening grosbeaks at their place? Yeah? Oh. Yeah, the Sharpshin Hog also has spotted the evening grosbeaks.
We've got some, I guess there are a dozen there today. At the feeder,
How many?
a dozen,
And where are you?
Annick Hill Road,
Sorry?
Annick Hill Road off of Harwood.
Near Harvard.
North of Baltimore.
Alnwick Hill Road in Baltimore. So most of the evening grosbeaks will be around the Northumberland forest. There are a couple of feeders on the east end of the forest that often have evening grosbeaks, but try in the area around the Northumberland forest if you're desperate to see an evening grosbeak. Anything else? Anybody else have any interest? Yeah, Marina. Sorry?
Northern Shrike, a couple days ago.
A northern shrike at Marina's. That means she's
Not
got,
at my house,
oh, not at your house.
near Goodrich Loomis.
Near where?
Goodrich Loomis.
Near Goodrich Loomis. Must mean that there are a few other small birds there because northern shrikes eat small birds. And if you don't have any small birds, you won't have any northern shrikes around. Not very many anyway.
Pine siskins, half a dozen pine siskins in my backyard for the
Pine siskins at Frank's place, which is just around the corner here in
brief
Coburg.
period of time.
And Frank, I haven't heard of many pine siskins in the area, so please send us a list. Mhm.
Someone else mentioned it, it's in Francisco.
Yeah, you've got pine siskins?
Yeah.
Yeah. There have not been as many as we sort of expected, so, yeah. Anybody else? Okay, then I guess this is a short list, but I have a report that was the on the fly. Where are you, Chris? You're here somewhere, yeah. Chris Ito led another on the fly raptor outing, which was quite successful in terms of people, but the winds changed and the raptors weren't as good as they thought they would be.
More birders than birds.
More birders than birds, she says.
You're very enthusiastic.
Which is sometimes the place it goes. You said, how many people? 21 people were in Donegan Park on the 7th of November. Yeah. And we have a new outings coordinator who unfortunately can't be here tonight. Richard Gerard, who would be more than happy to have any suggestions for outings from people, or if you want to lead one, he would be even more happy. But already the outings committee has planned for 2023 an outing to a reptile facility, a dinosaur facility, outings to Amherst Island, and a tracks and scat outings. That would be Don McLeod, the last one, and the Amherst Island would be Katsu, who's here tonight. And the last thing is the Christmas bird counts, which are coming up. The Port Hope Coburg Christmas bird count is on Saturday, December 17th. Pressfield Brighton is the following day, the Sunday, the December 18th. Race Lake Plains is Sunday, January the 1st. And if anybody is interested, we always welcome feeder watchers, but please check with the coordinator to make sure your feeder is in the circle. Roger coordinates the Port Hope Coburg and the Race Lake Plains. Doug McRae organizes the Pressfield Brighton ones. The contact information is in your curlew. So if you're interested in taking part in any of these things, let us know. We always are welcome new people. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for that, Elizabeth. The on-the-fly outings have been really, really good. They come up like a day or two, maybe a week before that they happen, but I've been to a few and I'm amazed at the amount of people that show up for them. So that's great. Yeah. So next order of business is to introduce our guest speaker, Mark Stabb. Mark, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction from you. In case you don't know, I think Mark gave a little bit of an introduction to himself before we got going with Zoom. But Mark is the program director for Central Ontario East Region of Nature Conservancy Canada. I think he's been doing that for about 15 years, correct, Mark? I've known Mark for a few years now, mainly through the Rice Lake Plains Partnership, of which Willow Beach is a member and the Land Trust is a member. And so we got to know each other quite a bit. And the topic that he's going to talk about today is of a visionary nature for what can happen.
There's some new glasses to don't do that.
So at this point, welcome, please welcome Mark Stabb. You did a great job.
Okay, so which machine do I go to now?
Just that one.
I've got the mouse. How the mouse will travel.
I just need to hit that.
Okay, I'm going to say got it. There's a thing that says got it, okay? I say got it. It says this meeting is being recorded by the host or.
Just hit
Okay,
got it.
got it. Okay, well, hello again, everyone, and hello to everyone in Radio Land out there. Yeah, it's really great to be back at the Willow Beach Field Naturalists. I've been here a couple of times over the years, talking about various projects, and some of that will come out in the presentation here today. You also have had regular presentations by staff of NCC, like Val Daisio. I think Todd Farrell has been here over the years. I think you had Amanda Tracy at one point.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
For a trip.
Yeah. So we really cherish our relationship with Willow Beach Field Naturalists. And I want to say thank you to you for being partners with NCC for so long, and also supporters of NCC. I know there are supporters of NCC in the audience, and I know Willow Beach Field Naturalists as a club that supported our work as well. So maybe this is a little bit of a giving back. So thanks again for that. I've noticed actually I called the presentation something different that's in your newsletter here. And I think when I first came up with this title, it was going to be something a bit more grandiose than I think what it has turned out to be. So I am going to present about our natural area conservation plan for the Rice Lake Plains and Lake Iroquois Plain and how it evolved to where it is now. And what opportunities there are to work in this beautiful county, Northumberland County. And it'll be an invitation to get involved in some of this conservation work or support your local club or land trust in doing some of the conservation that really is valuable and necessary here. And also invite you to join us to help in some of our work on our properties. And I think I have an idea for a field trip as well. So I'll talk about that a bit later. And also going to make a pitch for money. So that's my job. So sorry, I keep moving away. So stay here in front of the camera, right? Okay. Okay, so some of you may recognize this along County Road 9. And let's see here. Just a click or a scroll. There we go. Okay, yeah, so I have to put my dad in here so we started in 1962 as a small group, a spin-off from the Federation of Ontario Naturalists. Oh, by the way, Caroline Schultz, Executive Director of Ontario Nature, sends her regards and greetings tonight. I'm married to Caroline Schultz. So NCC started in 62 and it's grown across the country. Some of you may know actually a fellow named Bruce Falls, who's a zoologist from U of T. He was one of the founding members of NCC. Well, since then we've had chapters across the country and have helped secure and protect a lot of land, a couple of million hectares, and then even more when you count lands we've helped others to protect in various ways. And we can get into maybe question period afterwards about some of these other projects outside of Northumberland County that we're involved with, because it's really quite amazing. But there have been about 94,000 hectares protected directly here in Ontario. And some of those have come up just recently. So we're really committed to providing exemplary stewardship of lands that we care for, but also to partnerships, working with various groups and individuals to help make conservation happen. And I want to say thank you again. So again, I know there are donors here, and even just as a taxpayer, you're a donor as well, or supporter, because we take advantage of various federal grants and provincial grants. And right now, even the province has a funding grant program with the Nature Conservancy of Canada and other land trusts to support work on the ground here in Northumberland and elsewhere. And I'll talk about some of those projects we're doing. So back about 2002 or so, Nature Conservancy of Canada first got involved in Northumberland County, had been interested in Northumberland County for some time, and it was all about, at the time, tall grass prairie, oak savanna, and oak woodland, globally significant habitats that are on the crest of the Oak Ridges Moraine. So this is a map of known historic remnants of tall grass communities, and that really is oak woodland, oak savanna, tall grass prairie, all linked together by a suite of indicator species that like open, dry habitats. So that right below Rice Lake is where we started doing our work. And I wasn't involved with NCC at the time, but I was somewhat connected with the landscape, and I'll talk a bit about that later on. So that was really our first interest in the globally rare black oak savanna in particular, and other similar communities has really been our focus, but we also are interested in the broader healthy landscape beyond just those tall grass communities. So our original study area and plan was this kind of blob that took in the Oak Ridges Moraine and some surrounding areas, centered right near where the Northumberland County Forest is. And one of the reasons that is the area of interest is because that forest was planted on top of low sand and dry open areas that had just been exposed from clearing, and then plantations put in there to hold that land together again. So that same dry sandy moraine is very favorable to tall grass prairie, oak savanna, and oak woodland. So our work started in this area. And right off the bat, NCC did form this partnership with groups because they're just so vast an area to steward or care for or help protect. We really needed to have a community of organizations and entities to help make some of this conservation work happen. So the Race Lake Plains Partnership, or formerly Race Lake Plains Joint Initiative, was formed. And I actually found this picture, I decided to put that in. I joined the Race Lake Plains Joint Initiative in 2002 when I worked for a different group, Wildlife Habitat Canada. And that's me with the dark hair on the left-hand side there. Signing the MOU. So I was funny to find that new photo. That was at the Grafton Inn, actually, and we had a signing ceremony there, that sort of thing. Anyway, so I've had an interest in this area for some time. And then in 2006, I got involved with NCC and I've been working in this area ever since. So the plan, and we're going to talk about some of the results of the plan, what we've done, has been gone through a couple iterations. And then most recently, we've adopted a kind of an approach to landscape conservation that it isn't about what we think we most want to protect. It's about all the biodiversity in an ecosystem and what we can do to help focus attention on some of the priorities and then take steps towards protecting some of those things. So this is a new boundary of the study area we had made. And one of the things that brought us to this boundary are these watersheds. So, just below Rice Lake was where our original plan was. But then we took all those headwater streams and followed them right down to Rice Lake, down to Lake Ontario. And then we also want to take in all the rest of the Oak Ridges Moraine to the Ganaraska Forest, which is also a tall grass community. A lot of tall grass communities there. So through a variety of tweaking and also input from members of the Race Lake Plains Joint Initiative, we came up with this revised boundary that is much more comprehensive, takes in much broader area, and really brings in a lot more of the local interest into our plan as well. And we can talk a bit more about that later on. So I'm going to talk about a bit of the landscape and some of the things that have gone on in different parts of the area, not just in Race Lake Plains. But now basically, we're very close. Well, these are the various now study areas we have, with the Rice Lake Plains still being below Rice Lake, but it's over towards Ganaraska Forest over here on the left, where it still is our tall grass focused project. There's a Lake Iroquois plain here, high priority for migratory bird stopover habitat, coastal wetlands, species at risk. We've got sort of Trent Hills here area, the Trent Waterway and Trent Embayment area, and then the Coal Creek. And what's the other little creek down there, Robert? Piper, and so it's Coal Creek, more or less the Coal Creek watershed, which has had been the focus of the Rockland Pine Marsh Land Trust. So it's a much broader area, but now it's enabled us to focus attention not just high and dry up on the hills, the Oak Ridges Moraine, but in a variety of other areas as well. And it's been exciting to do that. So here's the county, and so more or less the planning area pretty much takes in all of Northumberland County and then some surrounding areas as well. So it really is a county-wide plan. So here's a map pointing to some protected areas here, and we'll be doing a bit of a tour of some of our Rice Lake Plain sites here. Talk briefly about Wesleyville, which you heard about last week. And sorry I missed that, but that's a really exciting project for this landscape. The Brighton area a little bit, and up Campbellford Way as well. And then there's some time we can answer some more questions about other projects and so on. So as I said, we are still very focused on the tallgrass ecosystem due to its rarity, how much has been lost, but then also the great potential to protect and restore these really globally rare habitats. And you've had presentations before, and some of you are quite expert at this, but really is a suite of communities associated with this ecosystem. So the oak woodland, oak savanna, tallgrass prairie, and even sand barren with some of these tallgrass indicator species in there, are all sprinkled across the tallgrass prairie ecosystem of the Oak Ridges Moraine and beyond. So since we started work here in 2002 or so, NCC that is, about 1,180 hectares have been protected. And I just kind of did some of that math in a variety of partner lands, not just NCC lands, which includes the Northumberland Land Trust, the Oak Ridges Moraine Land Trust. I'll talk a bit about them. Provincial parks, conservation areas as well. This is actually only about halfway to where we wanted to go to actually in terms of how much more land we'd like to protect and restore. And some of you know some of the properties involved. The red ones here are NCC lands on this particular map. The county forest here, and I'll show another slide later on. But it's not just about protecting these properties. Tallgrass communities in particular are kind of high maintenance habitats in terms of invasive species management, but particularly the introduction and maintenance of a prescribed burn fire cycle to help maintain the communities in that natural sense. So NCC and volunteers and club members have been very actively involved in managing properties ever since we get them. All the sites we get have been degraded because of invasive species in particular, but often because of lack of disturbance and hasn't been fire there for so long. So it takes an army in way of people and time and resources to bring them back to a state where they can be considered good quality tallgrass communities. And we have accomplished that. And Val Daziel, in particular, and her team, and this is part of one of her crew here, has been masterful in the art and science of bringing back these community types. And it's really quite astonishing to see some of the changes over time. Now, this is the Hazel Bird Nature Reserve, something you know very well. And you've heard the story about Hazel Bird, and she was a member of the club, wasn't she? Yes. And club members told us about Hazel Bird when we first had the opportunity to acquire this property. And it had been one of her favorite bluebird sites to go to. And I learned something this year from Elizabeth. We have an annual kind of Hazel Bird Day. I think it was this year. And that Hazel Bird had abandoned the Hazel Bird, what was now called the Hazel Bird property, because of the Scotch pine and growing in of the habitat that no longer favored bluebirds. And that was interesting because the bluebirds are back, and more than that is back as well. So I want to talk more about that. But this is just one map of many we have showing the various treatments that have been put into place on the property. Invasive species removal through hand removal, small brush cutters. We even had feller bunchers out there, which is a big boreal forest logging type machine to take down some big Scotch pine plantations that were there. Planting and seeding, prescribed burns. And then we've also introduced a woodland thinning. So old woodland and oak forests woodland oak savanna, in the absence of disturbance, will often grow in with native species like poplar, birch, pine, that sort of thing. So we have used burns primarily to try and beat those native species, but ones that that actually would squeeze out the tall grass species. We used to use mostly prescribed burn, but we have brought in some thinning as well, which is a well-established practice right across the range of tall grass ecosystems across North America. I frankly have been reluctant to use that tool because it's a bit of a hammer on the landscape in a way, but the results are dramatic. And if any of you have been to Pine Provincial Park, it's over on the Lake Huron shoreline. It's a sandy dune area. They have oak savanna there, and they apply that technique there too. So when we came here to Rice Lake Plains, I've always wanted out pinery, and I think we've out pinery. So and we've done the math, and I think that's the case now. So yes, prescribed burns are one of our really important tools. One thing we've been starting to do more now is look to help with prescribed burns outside our own land. And this, for the first time, we actually did a prescribed burn on a private property with the support of a grassland stewardship initiative, which is a funding program for private landowners and program delivery agents like NCC to expand and enhance grasslands across Ontario. The funding came from a need and recognition to support grassland birds in general, but pushed mainly because of species at risk like bobolink and eastern meadowlark, and then all other grassland birds that depend on the habitats, and many of those species are in steep decline. So the province had supported this grassland stewardship initiative, and there are private landowners who are taking advantage of it now. And I just noticed that the call for proposals has just come out again. So we can talk more about that later if you're interested about how landowners might be able to take advantage of that. But this was a burn that was done on a site owned by Richard Scott up near our property, who has one of the best lupin populations in the whole of Northumberland. Absolutely exquisite. But he hadn't had a burn on that, and so actually lupin numbers were going down, and they are fire dependent, or they benefit from fire. So here's one of the burn sites, and then the grasses and lupins have flourished afterwards. So it's a new step for us to help private landowners in that way, and we are going to be rolling this program out a little bit more in the coming year to offer up some property reports for private landowners and recommendations for stewardship that they can then take the next step for conservation on their land. So Hazel Bird, as we mentioned, she had brought the bluebirds back, and she kept meticulous notes, and she was had scientific rigor to all of her work. But because of Scotch pine growing in and probably some other native species in the absence of fire, they no longer became favorable for bluebirds, and she moved on. You'd be happy to know now that with the amount of cutting and slicing and dicing and chipping, planting of native grasses, the bluebirds are back, and many other. See if I can get them all right. No, Savannah sparrows there, grasshopper sparrow, clay-colored sparrow, and for the first time since maybe Hazel Bird's Day, upland sandpiper. Did you ever get to see her, Roger?
Yeah.
You're the one who found it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've always been saying upland sandpiper needs a larger grassy area to survive. And bluebirds are back great. We love the clay-colored sparrow, the grasshopper sparrow, but upland sandpiper, which needs a larger area to live in. Slowly, bit by bit, we've been pushing back the Scotch pine, moving from knapweed, an invasive species, to a native grass area. And it popped up for the first time this year. We're optimistic we might see it again next year. We tried to test it.
It's not the first year, actually. Last time I did a bird survey several years ago, there was a territorial male.
Oh, but it had a bred?
Oh, I'm not sure they bred this year, but
Okay.
there was a pair this year for sure.
Well, they did have some young. Did you?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, there's a story about that. I'll continue with you. It's a sad story. Well, so they were young. I guess I thought about, but for some reason they died. It was I know it was a cold snap or something, or a wet snap. Yeah, so I'll make sure.
Wasn't the derocher? The big storm we had in
Oh, I wonder.
May?
Yeah. So anyway, I'm excited about the first kind of breeding evidence that's what it was. So I'll make sure, I'll let you know about what happened. So anyways, I was excited because we know that they need these larger spaces and hopefully they'll be coming back again. The photos on the left, I think you may have seen in an earlier presentation. This is Hazelbird Nature Reserve, south end near Beaver Meadow Road. The top is, with all that pretty pink, is spotted knapweed, a terribly invasive non-native species, and below is the result of Val's work and all of her volunteers and others. Big blue stem, little blue stem, I think it's called savanna grass now, a beautiful meadow of native grasses that it took 10 years to get basically from top to bottom. Astonishing amount of work. Well, also, this area was known to be a hognose snake haven. In the olden days, Mark Rupke even did some work for us. We had a grant to get the word out about hognose snake and other species at risk. We had little posters and cards, have you seen this snake, that sort of thing. Mark had talked to a lot of landowners. And we had reports come in for hognose snake all the way around this property. And next thing you know, it came up for sale and we acquired it. They seem to be enjoying this property because this year, we had a snake expert, I don't know the fellow's name, found 9 separate nests of hognose snake on that one property, which is astonishing. So it's kind of scary because it's one of our only places that we have active use. We have a parking lot there, and if you haven't been there, we encourage you to go and all seasons, even during the Rice Lake Plains bird count. Yeah, and the snakes love it. So they're often on the edge of the woods next to an open area. That's where we tend to see them. Yes.
Can I just say something? I was on a Beaver Meadow Road last year, and there was a hognose snake sunning himself on the road. So if anybody's out touring around, keep your eyes open for these snakes that like to sun themselves in the pavement.
Yeah, we actually did have one of those signs with break for snakes out there. So that's exciting to see the land secured, land stewarded, and then wildlife seemingly responding to that. Now, but there's more to it than that. So we've actually, Hazelbird is sort of our flagship property, but we have like a couple thousand acres now. And I just want to point out a couple more opportunities here. So this green area, there you go. That's the Weber Nature Reserve. It was an ecological gift to the Nature Conservancy of Canada. Now Northumberland Land Trust owns property just to the south of that right here, which is really thrilling. But we've been slowly building on this property. So originally this green one here, we added on 2 properties here that we purchased. Another green blob here called Boyle's Corners along Pratt Road. And then to above, these are small little lots that were severed off before the Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan came in. And because of the plan so far, and I've got my, with me. Yes. Well, I have my stop bill 23 button, but didn't hear that. The Oak Ridges Marine Conservation Plan still does protect habitat. It's just that the current steps that are being taken are trying to remove some area from the green belt from the Oak Ridges Marine so that those protections are no longer applied to certain areas, but the protections are still in place where that act is still in place. So in this case, it's on the marine, it's in the core area, so they won't be able to open up a road to these parcels of land. Whereas at the time when they sever them off, great investment, it's going to be this cottage lot, we'll be able to sell it down the road. And they never did. And I had got my eyes on them from the very beginning, and slowly, bit by bit, after every couple of years, writing letters to people, we've acquired most of these little pieces here. So we have the Savage property and the Robbins property. Heard Angry Birds, well, we did Savage Robins. So Savage Robins project, Ruddick, Renovich here. And then just a couple weeks ago, a property right here was donated to us, Phillips property. And now we also have there's 2 other 10-acre parcels here, the Hutchings property that we're purchasing. So we'll have that whole block tied up except for one piece, little piece in the middle owned by, you never guessed, Val Daisio. She bought back in 2006 just so she could have a chunk of the Rice Lake Plains. So I think it's in good hands with her. So and this is a really neat area, a real mixed bag of things that have been planted, have come in after it having been much more open before. There was formerly open grown oaks, now surrounded by buckthorn and locust and you name it. So some really interesting challenges for restoration that will start down the road now that we have this whole block more or less protected, but we are still raising money. That's what this is about. So if folks are interested in stocking stuffer, some kind of contribution to the project, we are raising money to buy those last two pieces before Val, before the ones that are not Val's property. Yeah, so if you want to pick up a little sheet at the back there, feel free. And it could also support the stewardship of those lands. So you're talking about all the different types of work we do here. So like I said, I do thank folks who've helped us before, and the club has helped us as well. And I'm not a pushy fellow, but just in case you're interested, there you go. Right, and so this is, some of these properties have just been kind of derelict and left go. So I'll identify one species and see if you can identify the other. Right in the middle is a big red oak, growing right out of the engine area, which is astonishing. And now imagine how long it's been there. So who can identify the carp? I bet you some of you had one of these.
Looks like the Netzel.
Not quite. Actually, it's a country squire, with that sort of pathing on the side of the station wagon kind of thing. Astonishing. Anyways, that's one of our cultural heritage features. I love it. It's just great shots. But there's some other groups are doing work up there. I'll talk some more about that a little bit later on. But one new thing, and this is, some of these are sort of highlights of the year, really. Northumberland County Forest had their parts of their forest, special management zones, assessed and recognized by Ontario Parks as officially protected lands. So you hear about, we're going to protect 25% of Canada by 2025 or 30% by 2030. Well, those lands will actually count towards that figure. And they went through a process to assess them and to map them and show that they met the criteria for conservation. And that's really thrilling, a really great step for them to have taken. And actually, John Farrell, who's the lead of that in the Natural Heritage County, when he was with us, we actually helped support restoration of some of those sites with funds from the Oak Ridges Marine Foundation, et cetera. So that's a really exciting step, and hopefully an example for others to, maybe Ganaraska perhaps for others. So that's up here high and dry in the Oak Ridges Moraine. You notice we had other landscapes mapped. One's called the South Slope officially, this area between the moraine and this zone here, the Lake Iroquois Plain. And that's the shoreline and the land between the old Lake Iroquois shoreline and the Lake Ontario shoreline. Chock full of migratory bird stopover habitat, species of risk habitat, coastal wetlands, etc. So I kind of got excited about this. I think I need to talk about this here at one point. So it was thrilling to me to actually be able to start doing more work down here. And one of the first things, well, actually, this is a very recent one. This was actually on the South Slope, right near Grafton. Where is that? There we go, over here. Some of you know that Peter Camilla Douglas, who owned the Grafton Inn. So they've been supporters of NCC and local land trusts and other groups for a long time. And they have donated a conservation easement on their property. So it protects beautiful woodland. Also, farm is actually be protected from future development. And it's a couple hundred acres of beautiful land right down the road from the Bonnebaker Nature Reserve, which was an eco gift, I believe, to Northumberland Land Trust. So they are really excited about the idea of kind of building a hub of conservation in around that area. Just south of the 401, Conservation Authority owns some land there. There's Barnum House, is kind of a little protected little spot there. So a neat little hub growing there. And that just happened this year. It was my first easement I actually worked on in NCC, but there are a lot of easements being done. So I don't want to go into this in too much, but I'm really thrilled to see the success of the community building around the Wesleyville project. It's astonishing what Jennifer and the working group has done to get your group recognized as an important stakeholder and player in whatever might happen down that road. I know you were so close, and then things went awry, but and they went away too. But these properties are tremendously significant, and we do mapping for our conservation plan, which identifies priority sites for conservation, for stewardship, And the three main Wesleyville sites are each high priority, whether it's for wetlands or ravines or old growth forest. Even there's some potential for grassland, like tall grass in that area. So it's a tremendous project, and the clubs can be proud of what they've accomplished in becoming a go-to entity around natural heritage in the area. And we're happy to help. I know Val's been helping out quite a bit. You're doing assessments, and you guys arranged for BioBlitz, is really great. But it's a beautiful area, and we're glad that you're fighting the fight, because it's pretty clear that eyes are on that location now. There's no way that they can get away with something with it. Sorry, there's no way that.
Right, no worries.
Well, there's no way that things could be done to those lands without somebody seeing it or having done the research to show the significance of the sites that are up in that location. So well done, and I hope we can continue to help you as much as we can. Now, one of the really exciting things for me, once this plan kind of expanded, was kind of the ability to get off the hills of the Oak Ridge and Moraine. And I love the Moraine, but it's really high and dry. And one day I got a call from, I think it was John Gill or Doug McRae or both, that said, "Oh, you should check out this property at Brighton." So here's Provincial Park, here's town of Brighton, Presqu'île Bay, and there was a sign there for sale, 240 acres, right along the roadside. And for us, it was identified as a priority, provincially significant wetland, species at risk. And we knew we had allies in the community that said, we will help with this project. So we converted this sign into a different sign, future conservation site, and we partnered with Dust Unlimited. And in a very short period of time, we raised the money to purchase this property. It was really an astonishing amount of community support, including support from Northumberland Land Trust, Lone Pine Marsh, I think Willow Beach contributed, and individuals as well. So it came together. It was so exciting because often we're working out where nobody goes. People don't know these sites. This sold itself. People said, this is our community. This is our wetland that we appreciate so much just by looking at it. So we did eventually acquire it. There's some kind of drone footage here. So we flooded swamp, marshland, some old fields that are slowly restoring, and some farm fields we're restoring as well. So this is actually built on another property that was donated to us by the late Arnold Bowes. And if you know Brighton, Bowes Road, Arnold Bowes, that was his kind of farm and his Willenroth Woods, which he loved so much. I'm not sure if anybody here knew Arnold, but apparently he was a nice guy, kind of a jokester of sorts, but he donated these properties to us. And that was our lonely outpost property way up in the middle of Brighton that we'd cared for. We had a property management plan. We did stewardship work there. But with the acquisition of Brighton, it's given us a new opportunity and vision for kind of really expanding protection here. So just this year, this property was donated to us by Gordon Toby Developments. I'm not sure if you know the Brighton area, but he's a local developer, developing family. He donated this property to us, and we purchased these two properties here from the Phillips family. They're the farmers who actually have been leasing these farmlands for some time, and they lease our land here for hay, that sort of thing. These lands here, this is actually owned by the province of Ontario, this as well. So we're hoping that over time, we can actually have one contiguous protected site that ensures, blanding squirrels can roam freely, other birds as well. And we're looking at wetland restoration opportunities in those old farm fields. So if you drive that area, you may see some signs of see some machinery actually doing some work for wetland restoration. So yeah, now 378 acres protected. And we're pretty excited about what can come from there. So moving up into the Trent waterway area, Murray Marsh is one site that NCC actually helped with acquire years ago. Look at the size of that. That's a provincially significant wetland and magnificent. I forget, has Epic given a presentation on that here? I think she calls it like the Amazon of the Trent or something. Ms. Nyarchuk is with the Lower Trent Conservation. So now again, with this plan having an ability to look further than the moraine, we're examining how we may be able to help with Phragmites control, other things on that site. But it is a beautiful intact wetland area that I think we might still own land there, but it's mainly managed by the Conservation Authority. But it's a significant natural area. Oh, have you been there for a field trip? Yeah.
Not recent.
Have you been to the Weber property for a field trip?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because it's what Val loves Hazelburg Nature Reserve, but I think she loves Weber even more. And it's her favorite little spot, right? So I hope you can go back there because things have really moved along there quite significantly. But I heard you mention the name of the Curvis family. This is them. They actually own land over here on Wilson Island. They've been part of our private land program. So we actually had a site visit to see their property, investigate the natural heritage features, help make some recommendations for stewardship on their property and so on, provide them a report. Yeah, so we're hopefully build a relationship with them, and who knows what has in store for that property, but it is in very good hands with the purposes. Now a little bit further afield, Campbellford area. And I didn't want to talk, again, this is way off in the northeast in the sort of Trent Hills. This is another one of those outpost properties that we would care for as much as we could. We deal with invasive species, that sort of thing. But not too long ago, we had got contacted by Mike Wilson, who's a fellow who's been connected with the Kawartha Land Trust, which our current president or regional vice president is Mike Hendren. He came from Kawartha Land Trust, and with him, Mike Wilson also wanted to support the work that we were doing. He's now quite well off. Community. So he wanted to give something back, and he had actually been giving money to the Conservation Authority for like a watershed awareness program for many years, and he wanted to diversify. So next thing we said, well, right next to Campbellford, we have this Mary West Nature Reserve, and it was a bequest from Mary West. It's at West Corners, and if you've heard of West Bend Theater, it's all that hub. So he invested some funds in our work there. And now we've been able to kind of put it on the map. We have a nature trail there. We have started to develop programming with West Bend Theater, I should say. And here's actually, they have performances on our trail, nature trail. We have the oboes in the woods and flutes on the bridges and interpretive dancers. It really is unique. I'm really thrilled to see that partnership, because every time we go to visit, West Bend was like right across the road. The parking lot was right there. So we got to be able to do something with these folks. But only because we had this investment of funds from the donor that we were able to spend time getting to know them, working on some projects like that. So now it's become a public asset. And now we're looking to kind of see about potentially expanding our land holdings up there as well. Yeah, so they've had local school groups come. They helped actually create the nature trail itself. They did some planting and seeding and so on. It was a great partnership, all planned out, and we were going to be tours and all that sort of thing, and then COVID hit. So we kind of adapted, and we got into helping them grow plants from native seeds in their classroom or at home, and then bring it back. And we used the toilet roll technique, because this was COVID, right? And toilet paper is all the big thing, remember that? So you use the old toilet paper roll, you cut it in half, fold the bottom, fill it with soil, and you put the seed in there, and you've got it's a little plant pot, right? So we had these little kits, and we put them on the roadside, and family would come down and pick them up. And anyways, it was a fun project, and it was a great way to kind of get connected with the community there. So our next step at that property, if you want to look at the map again, these two fields we reforested over time. These two we left. Partly because we didn't really want to kick the farmer off the property, frankly. It was, we didn't really have the funds to restore it. So he was pleased to keep farming it. But eventually now we did get funds to actually restore it to natural habitat, which is our mission. In this case, though, one of the things that is vitally important and necessary for restoration work is native seed to restore sites. And if you ever buy native seed to plant, it's very expensive. And very limited in supply in terms of the native species that could be used in some of these properties. So Val has designed a plan for a seed orchard. So the southern plot, they grew soybeans for a couple of years, help get rid of the weeds and so on. And there's going to be a parking lot there and trails that would encircle dense planting of single species and sometimes mixed species tall grass, wildflowers and tall grass plants that then could be collected by members of the community, by NCC, to be used on other sites. So it's really exciting. And this is Chelsea Marcantonio's, most of her work, or photography. And I said, well, why don't you have a picture of what you think it's going to look like in the future? So that's what it's going to look like in the future. So we have one field that's all tall grass species, grass species, and the lower field where the trail will be. And it's going to be hopefully an accessible trail that anybody can go to, can help collect, help maintain the planting, etc. Will be wildflower species, indicated species, butterfly milkweed, things like that. So that's pretty exciting for us. It's going to have benefits beyond just that local site as well. And yeah, so we're getting close towards the end here. A couple of other big landscape kind of things are coming up I just wanted to share with you. And we had a presentation on key biodiversity areas yet. Well, there are designations globally, kind of a global system identifying significant bird areas called important bird areas. And it is based on proportions of species populations that are in a given area. So if you have like 10% of the world's certain warbler, that becomes identified as significant and then draws attention to the site as really important for birds. Well, that category has now been expanded to become a key biodiversity area, which really applies the same principle, but to other wildlife species as well. So you can probably actually maybe want to have a presentation from these guys, but they were doing with Bird Studies Canada, identifying sites right across Canada. I gave a presentation to one of their workshops talking about Rice Lake Plains Partnership, community kind of building around these sort of projects. And I said, well, what about the Rice Lake Plains? So it doesn't have the high concentrations of globally significant bird populations, but there are other things that are significant. And one of them is the mottled dusky wing. I want to have a picture of the mottled dusky wing here. Yeah, that's New Jersey tea at our property up near Warkworth, near the Red Cloud Cemetery, and I think I've got a mottled dusky wing. So there is a large portion of mottled dusky wing in Northumberland County and flying over almost all of our properties in particular, because we've been restoring New Jersey tea, expanding the area. So it might be this and a couple other plant species would warrant that area to be identified as a key biodiversity area. And I sent an email to them just before I came over. They didn't get that. There might be other areas in Northumberland that they're looking at as well. So one of their jobs is to reach out to local communities, community members, naturalist clubs, to find out more what you know about these populations in your area. So you might be seeing more about this coming down the road. So give you the scoop here today. We're involved in Prince Edward County, and there's a couple of them there. South Shore, Prince Edward County is considered one. Sandbanks is its own. So, and I believe at Presqu'île, yeah, there's a IVA at Presqu'île, and that will probably be reassessed. Are there other wildlife species that weren't becoming this key biodiversity area? So as I mentioned, there were a lot of other groups working in this area, and we are committed to partnering to Rice Lake Plains Partnership. But most recently, we had a meeting of just the land trusts in the area. So there's ourselves. Notice another great big thing happened. I think was this year, was this calendar year was completed, Robert? The merger?
Yep.
Last year. So here, watch this, watch this. There you go. I always thought you should use the lone pine tree and put it in your logo. So every lone pine tree in the Northumberland.
I'll put that on the next board.
So we've had meetings periodically as kind of an offshoot of the Rice Lake Plains Partnership about all the land groups that are involved with land conservation, either land trusts, Ontario Parks, conservation authorities, Ontario Heritage Trust, for that matter, Northumberland County. But this is the first time just the land trust met, the private conservation groups who protect private land, a variety of ways, so that we can better coordinate and collaborate on land conservation in the area. Kawartha Land Trust is working out to the north and west in the study area, not in the county. But they are well established and a really good kind of, almost not like a mentor, but provide good examples of how to grow a land trust from a smaller one to a larger one. I know that now you have your staff person there who's actually gone to talk to work a land trust and learn from them a lot. Yeah, which is really great. Oak Ridge Moraine Land Trust works right across the moraine, and that's been their primary interest. They have not been working too much in the county until recently. I'll talk about one of the projects they're working on. And there also is the Ontario Farmland Trust, and they're all about protecting farmland. They haven't been very active here either, but before that meeting, we gave them a call. Are you guys planning to do work in this county and help protect farmland? And they are getting more interested in that possibility. So we're committed to kind of collaborating to see how can we ramp up conservation of land in various ways? Who's the best land trust to provide service to a landowner? There are options now for landowners with different interests. Some would want to go directly with this local land trust. That's who they would trust the most. We have opportunities as you see to purchase land where other groups do not. So that was our first meeting together of all these groups, and there'll be more to come. And we popped up with this idea of, well, what if we aim for 30% of Northumberland County protected by 2030? So we didn't come to consensus on that. I think it's through that yourself. But it came up. So it's an idea. But the idea is that let's collaborate. Let's get more work done. Let's ensure we provide good public service to landowners who may be interested in protecting land. So lots of options out there, and we are committed to collaborating. So here's sort of I think pretty much current conservation land. Brown is Northumberland County, orange Ganarask Forest, green is NCC, provincial park, conservation land, land trust down here, Coal Creek, etc. And I think I'm going to start doing the math of how much Northumberland is protected. I haven't done the math. I've got it for the whole study here, but not for Northumberland itself. So see if we can start ramping up the gain here. Oh, and finally, one new initiative that's coming to town. This is John, he's an appraiser. He's retired now. He's done a lot of appraisals for us. When we acquire property, we have to appraise it to see what the fair market value is, and that's what we provide in terms of value in a tax receipt or for purchase price. And he's done John Mulvihill. So this is 2010 at Hazel Bird. Now look at all the Scotch pine there. That's all Scotch pine behind it. Yeah, so amazing difference. But one of the neat things about this landscape now is it's attracted the attention of a number of groups and individuals who are interested in this bird. Anybody can identify that? Kirtland's warbler. So I used to work for it's a U of T with a professor named Paul Aird. And Paul Aird, he was a forester, but he was a bird lover as well. He had discovered a lone singing Kirtland's warbler in the Petawawa forest area. There's Petawawa National Forest Institute and then the Army base there as well. And he was convinced that there'd be more in Ontario. They are critically endangered in intensive care for many years in Michigan for captive breeding, habitat management, and they're like a prima donna of habitat specialists, really. They're really depend on very specific type of oak, pine, savanna conditions. It actually did years and years of cowbird removal from their nesting sites. It was really, I guess, still doing cowbird. Yeah, it's astonishing what they've done. However, the birds have come back, and now they're in Ontario, and they had these Motus tracking, these kind of tracking devices on the birds, and they tracked them flying right across Ontario. So there was money available to see if they could restore habitat for Kirtland's warbler, because it started to be found in other locations, and it was all secret squirrel for quite some time. The word is out now. But they had money in the county of Simcoe to restore habitat for Kirtland's warbler, and the next year the birds were there. Unbelievable. But they need oak savanna habitat. So they're coming to, there's interest in potentially investing funds here for oak pine savanna. It's very specific type. It has to be young trees, has to have the boughs to the
Jack pine.
Jack pines.
No. In Ontario, they don't use jack pine. It's another oak pine system, which is like that. When they first heard about Kirtland's warbler, I thought, yeah, that's exactly the same thing. But they've adapted or they've used other habitats. Yeah, it was always just jack pine, young jack pine forest, right? No, but it's not anymore. So the forest that we have here, with the right management, because we're aiming for oak savanna habitat as well, could become Kirtland's warm habitat, which is interesting. Well, the Oak Ridge Rainland Trust they're going to try and do the approach that they did in Simcoe, which had an old field that he planted up into that structure. So they're looking for land to actually do that kind of project here in Northumberland. So there you go. And I gave this presentation. I know Paul Aird was on, he's retired now. He was on the Zoom call or something, but he was looking out for this warbler for years. It's like the great pumpkin, right? Nobody believed it would ever be Kirtland's warbler. And they came back. So very happy for him that he must feel justified.
Reference for Northumberland, but
Not reading?
There's an old one from Almonton Road area,
Oh, okay. Well,
from like the 1950s, when it was probably ideal habitat.
what do you know? Interesting. Yeah, so this could be something coming with these birds. So anyways, one final pitch. We're always looking for help on our properties. We have a conservation volunteers program. And it's really grown. We were really active before COVID. And then it all kind of went haywire, but it's coming back again. So we had we had a planting one in 2019, had another one just this year. Probably, I think we planted twice as many or more of plants there. So any help is welcome. And I want to thank you for your support of us over the years and all these other entities as well. And in case you don't know, that's Val, who I speak so highly of here. There's a man.
Just got kicked off. Oh, okay.
You got kicked off?
No, it just, she's saying to us, it just got kicked off, so. But that was really excellent. There's lots going on. Participants.
Holy mackerel, gosh, so much has gone on. Anyway, so Minister was there, really beautiful, exciting day. So yeah, so that idea of connecting and expanding, we really like to get our hands on that gravel pit to the north and restore that at some point. So yeah, short answer is yes, there's lots of interest, and we like to invite community members out to our events there as well, just to get to know the neighbors. So yeah, so I know the Northumberland Land Trust would love to speak with you or and have further chats. Yeah. Yeah, no, and yeah, so we really, same applies right across Northumberland County. We have maps that have identified significant sites and priority sites. So if you know people who are interested in a long-term protection of their property, you've seen there's many options available, and even options just to get more engaged directly in stewardship of those lands that perhaps we can help with as well.
So what was your idea of an outing?
Oh, no, I think if you have you, so the club has been to Weber? Yeah. Okay, go back to Weber. It's amazing. So in what's different about Weber is it's away from everything. It's quiet. You don't have the people everywhere. And we don't have a trail there because it was an ecological gift. So an ecological gift of land is
Sort of trail.
well, it's kind of not a public trail. So when you get an ecological gift, land is registered with Environment Canada, and it's meant to be protected as it is, without any change in use. So no new trails, no new parking lots, no hydro development, whatever. So even a new trail is sometimes not allowed in these ecological gift properties. So they really are pristine lands. So Val's quite excited about showing that off. And there's some areas there that yeah, we like to get people to see it, but also see that network of all those other lands now that we're together.
So I have another question for you. You talked about some of the members of the Rice Lake Plains Partnership, and there are many more too, than what you mentioned, correct? Or are you bringing more in to that group?
There are many more, or aren't many more?
Well, there are. I thought Trent University and Sir Sam, I'm not sure you mentioned those.
Yeah, I just had the logo up there. I didn't mention everybody, I don't think, but
Well, you mentioned two.
where are we there?
Don't worry about it.
There. Okay, so many groups. It was Fleming and Trent, and Trent's not in there. Okay, I guess that's an old slide. Trent University. Tallgrass Ontario is a group, and they just specialize in tall grass restoration. Had been mostly focused in the Southwest, but now there's actually a Northumberland Rice Lake Plains Committee of Tallgrass Ontario that are focusing those efforts there. They have a great website. If you want to learn more about tallgrass restoration, they're another good one. Yeah, Northumberland County, Ontario Parks. And Kawartha Land Trust sometimes comes to meetings. We had invited Oak Ridge and Ray and others to come as well. One of the things about this new plan is having us think, well, should it be the Rice Lake Plains Partnership? Should it be a county-wide regional conservation partnership, of which Rice Lake Plains is one project, Wesleyville is another project that's sort of larger network. So the club, there's a meeting next week. So if we can chat about various ideas like that.
We'll be there.
Jolly good. In person.
I'll be there.
Yep.
I think Jenny will be there.
Okay, well, I'm here afterwards as well if you want to have more questions and so on. I thank you for your time. And yeah, and thanks everybody out in Radio Land. Anybody have any questions from out there in the chat? Yeah, I'm all done. Yeah.
So don't just leave, because the important part here, Mark, is I'd like to thank you for the presentation. I sure hope people in the audience get a chance to ask Mark some more questions. There's a lot of information that Mark has, wealth of information, and it's, just bear with me. Mark, I know you do a lot of walking in Northumberland, so, you know, on behalf of Willow Beach, we're going to help you out there.
Gary Wall? Nice, this is beautiful. Yeah. Walk softly.
Walk well. Walk well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Well, this brings us to closing remarks here. So basically, I want to thank everybody for coming here. I have no idea how many people are on Zoom. Sarah?
We had like about 19 or like 17 around
17.
at max.
And then a full audience here, I think. So it's a pretty good turnout. I want to thank the Northumberland Land Trust. They came out in numbers tonight as well. And we certainly enjoy working with the Northumberland Land Trust. Yeah, so I want to thank Sarah Inglis, and I want to thank Maria Skaza, who basically are the brains behind the technology here. And basically, I'm going to just say what's coming up. And want to let you know that our next meeting is at the end of January. We don't have a meeting in December. And our speaker will be Monica Fromberger, and she will be talking on piping plover conservation in Ontario parks, Darlington and Presque Isle specifically. Piping plovers were once locally extinct in the Great Lakes in Ontario. They returned in 2007, according to this article, and to nest at Willow Beach, and later turned to the shores of Lake Ontario in 2015. To provide an overview of the conservation efforts for piping plover recovery in Ontario, with recaps of nesting seasons at Darlington and Presque Isle Provincial Park. So we look forward to that. And that meeting will be Friday, January 27th. And then at the end of February, we have our annual general meeting where we will elect our board again, and hope to see you there. So does anyone have any questions on anything that transpired this evening? I hope everyone's getting their curlew, our newsletter, and participating in outings. I know they are. What else do I got there? Yeah, those are the two biggies, I guess, in the general meetings, but we're getting really good attendance. I mean, I'm thrilled at the people that are showing up in these meetings. I really am. A lot of expertise in this room, a lot of interest. So we can only grow. We've got to work together. We've got to break down the silos. There's a number of environmental groups that are out there that have been doing their own thing for quite a while. And because of Mark alluded to it, I wasn't even going to mention it. Bill 23, this club has made a couple of submissions already, the standing committee and so on and so forth. And we have to work together on this thing to make sure some of this really bad ideas don't come into effect. Just to let you know, we're paying attention. People have asked what Willow Beach is doing on that behalf. We, I guess as a club, we're not really out there being strong public advocacy people, but we certainly get the information out, and our members can certainly take action on their own, and we try to give them as much information as we can to do so. So that's all I've got to say tonight. If nobody else has any other questions, I'm just going to say good night to everybody, and if you're driving, drive safely, and to the Zoom people out there, hope you heard everything. I got no comments back from any, no questions from the Zoom group or nothing. Okay, so that's it, folks. And thank you.